Right, so we'll start on the first sentence. Um, every art and every investigation, and similarly, every action and pursuit aims at some good. This is actually just really convoluted, and Aristotle's Greek, so he does this a lot. It's actually very simple. Essentially, what he's saying is we never do something just for the sake of doing it. We always have some reason, some sort of justification for why you would want to do something. If you take a walk outside, maybe it's, oh, you want to appreciate the beauty of nature, or you're trying to cut some weight. There's some reason you would do something. Now, some of these activities have ends which we want for the sake of further ends. Let's say I'm a boxer. That's not an example in real life. So I'll go on a run, and yes, I want to do it for my health, but I also want to do it to build cardio, and I need cardio so that I can be a better boxer. So it's an end that I'm pursuing for another end. There must be an end for which all else is done and for which we value for its own sake. So if we're constantly doing things and it's like, okay, I want this thing so that I can reach this thing, so that I can reach this thing. Like you finish grade school so that you can go to high school, then you go to high school so that you can go to university or so that you can get a job. What's the end goal of that job? Is it money? Well, no, because you spend money on other things. You don't just earn money until you die. That's not what Aristotle or Nafsika would consider a worthwhile life. So what else is there? Well, he doesn't really know. He just sort of slaps a name on it, Eudimonia, and says, well, that's good enough. Like, we don't need to know exactly what it is. And a lot of people have their own answers about what it is. If you're religious, you might say, well, that's reaching heaven, right? Like, you do good things to other people, you praise God, you go to church, you do all of these things, and the end goal of that is you reach heaven. Like, that's the goal at the end of it all. For some people, like for a humanist, you might say, well, you want to create well-being among other people, and most modern ethics are based on well-being. We follow rules in the pursuit of making life better for everyone around us. That's principle of empathy, basically. But essentially, we do things for a reason, and oftentimes those reasons compound. But there has to be some end. This can't be an infinite chain, otherwise life is meaningless, and we don't stand nihilism here. No, bad, no nihilism. So Aristotle names this final good as eudaimonia. There's a lot of, I think I've said, like, religious people have their own definition for it, and humanists have a definition for it. Ultimately, it'll be different for everyone, and that's okay. A really famous person who defined it is Thomas Jefferson, and he called it the pursuit of happiness. And you wonder, okay, why are there three things that he guarantees in the Declaration of Independence? That you want the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Well, the right to life is something that you need in order to do anything. It's security. It's basically guaranteeing opportunity. If you don't have the right to life, you've got nothing. So that's your starting point. If you don't have that, there's no point in having any other freedoms. It's like, I have freedom of speech, but I don't have freedom to life. Freedom revoked. Then you've got the liberty, and liberty is basically the engine that lets you do other things. Or let's say I want to build something, and I have the right to live, but I don't have the right to liberty. Essentially, everyone around me can just tell me what to do, so I can't do anything. I don't act of my own volition. Functionally, I don't exist. I'm just an engine that someone else can act through. So you've got to secure liberty. But why the pursuit of happiness? You can build a house and be miserable. You can learn to play an instrument and be miserable. You don't need to pursue happiness in order to live a life and do things. Well, the reason he has that pursuit of happiness is because, he was a huge fan of Aristotle too, so he writes very, very similarly to how he did. Now, he secures the pursuit of happiness as a right, because the pursuit of happiness for him is that eudaimonia. It's the goal. It's the thing that you reach, and it's not happiness itself, because happiness itself, it can come prematurely. Like you say, well, I don't chase happiness. I've been happy. Like, I know what that is. I don't need it again. You might want it again, but happiness isn't something that you just have and then you just keep it. It's like, oh, I've achieved the happiness. I now have the happiness. It doesn't work that way. It's more complicated. And happiness itself won't motivate you to do something. It's like, well, I've taken the drug and now I feel the happy. So I'm just going to keep taking the drug. I'm not going to do anything. That's not pursuit of happiness. That's just possession of happiness. It's bad for you. It's not really a way to live. In the case of, if we're talking about like heroin, you'd be giving up your right to liberty because you become addicted. Everything you would do would just be to get the next hit so that you can keep the happiness. What Jefferson is talking about with the pursuit of happiness is you do things in order to do other things, and eventually you reach that point and you would be happy. But happiness isn't something you reach. You never achieve a point in your life and then you're happy. It's when you do things, you're happy. Like a hobbyist. I play board games. I love playing board games. I don't play a board game and then at the end, I'm happy. It doesn't work like that. I play a board game and while I play, I'm happy. And at the end of it, yeah, I might reflect on it and be happy in a different way, but I'm happy when I'm doing it. There's a Buddhist scholar who talks about this too, where he says happiness is like, where he says happiness is like music. You don't listen to music to get to the end, or it's like dancing. You don't dance to get to a certain point on the dance floor. That's irrelevant. The point of the dancing is the dance. The point of the music is the music itself. He says a little comedically, if the point of the music was the end, we would have composers that only wrote finales, and you'd show up for an orchestra and they would play one crashing chord and everyone would leave because that's the end. But the pursuit of happiness is different. The pursuit of happiness is that eudaimonia. It's the purpose of why you would do all these things. It's you don't build the house to have the house. You build the house so that you can live in the house. Okay, why do you want to live in the house? Well, because when you live in the house and you have a family, that might make you happy. Not in a way of, oh, I have the family and I have the house, therefore that's it, I'm done, I'm happy. But it opens that door to happiness that you wouldn't otherwise have. And that's why you need the pursuit of happiness. It's the engine that fuels everything else. So you've got life. Without life, you can't do anything. You've got liberty. Without liberty, you don't functionally exist. You're just the arm of someone else. And then you have the pursuit of happiness. And the pursuit of happiness, or if we go back a few thousand years to Aristotle, eudaimonia, that presents itself as the reason why you would do things. It's that ultimate good that you would aim for. He said, everybody has their own definition. This is one Greek guy's definition from a few thousand years ago, but it's really good. And for the Americans, it's really, really important, because Jefferson had his own idea of what eudaimonia was, and it's very, very similar to what Aristotle's was. Hope that clears it up a little bit.